Hello, all Anjanette speakers, YouTubers, those who are following me on my podcast, and all social media family, biological family, and extended family. This is Anjanette Potter, also known as Adam's Rib. I am coming to you with the third part of a series. In fact, this part is probably too long coming because I looked at the last two posts that I had on this topic and they were in 2017. So right now there seems to be a lot of buzz on the internet and different places about some magazine pictures. Rihanna, the R&B singer Rihanna, did a photo shoot and a cover for Harper's Bazaar, China. So the slideshow will be available on YouTube, and I think I'm going to go ahead and post the photos on the Anjanette Speak blog. So the last two topics, I'm putting this under my How Respectability Politics Kills Black Women series. And this particular, the last two topics, I talked about why wallets seem to get more love than women. And I was discussing the whole thing of when you are talking about crime, why it's easier to say, well, if you're standing too close, you may pick my pocket, rather than say, I don't want you to stand too close because you might be trying to flirt me. As though picking pockets is a real crime and flirting isn't a real crime. And we discuss sex crimes are real crimes. It is a real crime to touch people, grope people, or do anything to someone without their permission. It is a crime, and, women take it seriously. So the second one was the world loves to watch a black woman show her ass. And I talked about the whole issue of, feminine anger, and especially black women being labeled as angry when we're not, are being called bitter bitches and different things to really disregard, disrespect, and play down our legitimate anger about legitimate issues, such as relationship issues, not being taken seriously in the workplace, cultural appropriation, which will be the topic for tonight. So, Rihanna's pictures, I have to say, as a person who has a background in the fashion world after doing hair for 20 years and working in, a little bit in the hair show world and different things, I have to say these pictures were flawless. I mean, when I post them, you'll see what I mean. They took my breath away. Whoever did the makeup, and I have to say, there's some Asians out there, man, I don't know who did it. I don't know if the person was Asian or not, but I have seen some Asians get to work and do some work on sisters with our hair and makeup and stuff, and just, just take your breath away. So these photos are like breathtaking. I mean, she photographs well anyway, but they're just beautiful pictures. So I guess a few people got bent out of shape and were like, well, how does she get away with that? And the Kardashians and anybody white is accused of being culture vultures, or being, called out on the whole issue of cultural appropriation. So let me give you a little bit of a definition. I looked it up via Wikipedia, one of my favorite sources. I know it's not verifiable. I know some people, have issues with it, and I'll go into that on a later date. But right now, I'm just citing a source. So via Wikipedia, I looked up the definition. So cultural appropriation is the adoption of elements of one culture by members of another culture. It's especially, how can I say this? The big issue is usually it's a dominant culture who appropriates from a disadvantaged minority culture. What we call culture vultures. it's an issue in the United States, and usually it's the black community calling out the white community, who is the majority culture, on that whole issue. And unfortunately, when you have cultures where there's been colonizing, where there's been a dominant culture established over another culture, and especially the USA, where we have 50 states worth of people, and a lot of indigenous people who have cultures that may be foreign to the dominant culture. You probably you run into it a lot. Now, what's especially harmful is if the original meaning of the cultural element gets lost or distorted, or is presented in a way that is very, very disrespectful to the culture that originated it. So, trying to think of one thing, that has been getting a lot of flack lately. Like I said, Kardashians are considered guilty of that a lot, being that many of them date black men. The majority of them date black men. The majority of them date black, period, because even the one male, their brother Rob, has a thing for black women. And so, because, they're dating and mixing and mating with a lot of black people, they tend to adopt a lot of black styles, and it's pretty much thought of as disrespectful, because it becomes, fashion. Like, as a black person, we may be seen different. I'm trying to think, like cornrows. Cornrows for us would be disrespectful to wear in the workplace, believe it or not. I can remember, especially back in the late 70s, early 80s, where black women were wearing braids and everything. It was considered unprofessional to wear, especially if you had an office job. So a black woman had to sue. There were a few lawsuits at that time concerning that. Well, Essence and a few other black publications got together with their hairstylists, and they did a fashion spread to they really actually looked up looks that would also be considered professional to wear in the workplace. And so you have a lot of white women, around during that time. Bo Derek, who is, still around, very good actress, made the movie 10. Well, in the movie 10, Bo Derek has cornrows and beads. She's a white woman. She's blonde, as a matter of fact, and is wearing cornrows and wearing her hair beaded and everything. So so when you're looking at this movie, you see this white woman with these beads and these cornrows, and it looks exotic. So, of course, it's not we are, we're not getting hired for jobs and different things for that same look, and then it's featured in a movie called 10, and seen as exotic because she's in this exotic location on this island, the ocean, and everything else. So there's a reason why you have so many African Americans who get up in arms about what they consider poaching of our style. And then when you talk about the origin of beads and braids, because we take that all the way back to the motherland, Africa, where many of us descend from. And so, that's just a big thing. So another part of that is, it losing its meaning. If the original element had deep meaning to the culture that you poached from, and now it's seen as a fad. I was talking earlier, and I talked about I remember this Native American comedian that I saw on HBO a long time ago, and he was talking about how, Americans disrespect a lot of Native American cultures, and he's talking about the cowboy movies where you see them We know the Indian war cry. And I'm like, well, was that really a war cry? I mean, when I think about it now, when I look at it in hindsight, was that really even one of their war cries? And different other stuff. So he began to say, well, what if we made fun of your stuff? And so he kind of posed like Jesus on the cross. And so, it was, to me, it was funny. I'm a born again Christian, but to me, it was funny because it sent home the point that, you're taking customs that are meaningful to them, and you're making fun of them, and you're misappropriating them, and you're putting them, you're shedding light on them. You're not taking the time to get to know what these mean to us, and you're featuring them in movies. I'm looking at a channel right now as I'm recording that called Decades, and it never occurred to me just how some of these movies were so insensitive to just about every culture, including Latin Americans. So now I thought about it earlier, and I discussed how black people seem to have to go through hell to even get the conversation about a cultural appropriation, stealing different elements of our culture taken seriously. And then when something is publicly said about it, it's almost like the other cultures, like Native Americans, Asians, different other people, Latin Americans, it's almost like other people of color get taken more seriously, or people are more sensitive to the poaching of those cultures. But it's, with us, it's like, okay, but we had to say something about this for years, and sometimes even decades, before finally somebody gets it and decides to take it seriously. So let's talk about Rihanna's photo spread. It's not cultural appropriation for me, and I will tell you why. When I look at the pictures, they're very tastefully done. They are exquisite. They are beautiful pictures. When I say beautiful, I mean even the internet magazines that I looked at that were talking about them and even discussing the whole cultural appropriation thing. We're talking about how those pictures, just as a black woman, they just give you life. They're not. If anything, number one, they're being done in the actual homeland where she is. I think a lot of people tend to want to misappropriate the term cultural appropriation and put it on things that it's not applied to. It doesn't apply to her because, number one, she was, and the reason why people were trying to say it was because she's dressed in Asian garb, as they would call it. She's dressed in Asian dress, native to their land. However, she's not poaching. Whoever decided to do the photo shoot, keep in mind that this is not Harper's Bazaar, the American version. These are pictures featured in the Chinese edition of Harper's Bazaar. So it's in their land. To me, if anything, it's almost paying homage to their culture, or at least their way of dress, since we're talking about a fashion magazine. I don't see her doing any other things that are germane to their culture. She just has on clothes that we associate with Asian and especially Chinese culture, because we're talking about a branch of Asian American, which is the Chinese, because they hail from different cultures. So she's not a culture vulture. They're more or less going to be given credit for what she's doing, even though Asian dress is almost always seen as exotic over here. She's not really. It's not the same. It's just really not the same. It's hard to describe. It's kind of hard in my own words to describe, but with the slideshow, I will be giving snapshots of the Wikipedia information that you can also read. So I'll be putting the pictures on YouTube and probably on my blog, as well as the Wikipedia, because there's also a picture of a guy with a Native American headdress on, a white guy. She's also not poking fun at them. She's not poking fun of them. It is a very tasteful, very fashionable, very fabulous. Like I said, the creativity, the color, everything that is going on with this photo shoot is just like beautiful. I mean, it's just a beautiful, flawless photo shoot. I may have to do a two-parter on this particular one to like really give the breakdown, because right now I'm like not doing it right now, but I may have to go into another part two of this to kind of give the real deeper meaning behind it and everything. But it's not cultural appropriation. Like I said, number one, she's over in China doing it. It's for Chinese Vogue. And so if anything, it's kind of giving homage to their culture and giving props to the fact that this is their this is their edition of Harper's Bazaar. It's their edition. She's in their land, so she's deciding to wear their clothing as opposed to taking it and making it, making fun of it or making a caricature out of it or anything like that. She's not making a caricature out of it. If anything, she does it justice because, like I said, they're very beautiful pictures and everything and very tastefully done. So why... I can give a couple of theories as to why, especially African Americans are kind of, upset about, what we see as poaching our culture. You have to understand that we've been in the United States now for about 4 or 5 centuries. And we came over, we were taken away from the land that was actually where we hailed from, our ancestors anyway. So we had to develop a lot of new cultures and a lot of new ways to cope with being here. We have some traditions that I believe we got from, the from the motherland that we passed down, but it's like we have a lot of stuff that we started over here. Like I said, as a reaction to being in a land that's not ours. I belong to quite a few different Facebook groups, and it's always interesting the arguments that I wind up in as a born again Christian with other black people who are like, well, Christianity was never yours anyway. That's the white oppressor. They forced you into it and this, that, and the other. I'm not going to say they're completely wrong, but I'm also going, I have a post coming up where I talk about worshiping white Jesus. And, it's basically about race and how all of that plays in. So they're not completely wrong. However, they kind of have it wrong with African Americans in this country who choose to worship Christ or choose to be born again. It's a little bit deeper than that. It's not just about adopting somebody else's customs. It's not just about somebody, the slave owner giving you Jesus. Christianity goes so much deeper. So, as I said before, we didn't have a whole lot. We kept as much as we could from the motherland to pass down, to generation, but then we developed a lot of stuff here. And so it's almost like we don't have a whole lot here that we can always call ours. So when someone decides to appropriate it and then make it into something exotic, and then we can't even wear it, like I said, with the whole cornrow thing. We still going through a whole lot of stuff now, being able to wear our hair natural and not having to straighten it, and not having to adopt the white standard of beauty, which I'm gonna go into on another posting as well. So to be able to wear our own hair and wear our own styles and different other stuff, then when someone appropriates it and now it's made into something exotic, and that person, and edgy and different other stuff, so they can wear it, and it's edgy and it's fashionable and it's cool. But when we're wearing it, it's unkempt, unprofessional, and a whole host of other words that we wind up not getting a job. We wind up unemployed and different other stuff for something that makes someone else feel exotic. So anyway, I think I'm gonna make this. This is I'm gonna go into gonna go into more depth about the whole cultural appropriation thing within some of our other topics. Like I said, this along with my Hoify series are going to be ongoing series, because I do think that this is an area where black women are kind of being killed. Our sense of style is being attacked. And not only being attacked, but also it's almost like we have to swap. We're being given long flowing hair and all of that other stuff. In exchange, somebody's taking our stuff and making more money than us. And, making more money than us, and making it in style for us, and different other stuff. Everything from our lips, our boobs, and different other things. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely go into more depth in later episodes. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead. If you're on YouTube and you're hearing me, you'll probably be seeing the slideshow along with this posting. If you're on any of the podcasts that this is available on, I would advise you to go to YouTube so you can see the actual slideshow, or go to my blog, AnjanetteSpeaks66.wordpress.com, where the pictures will also be featured along with this this podcast, along with this critique or podcast. So anyway, you all, right now it is Wednesday night, going into Thursday morning. I think I'm almost at midnight pretty soon here. It is July 9th going into the 10th, or 10th going into the 11th. I'm not quite sure. But once again, you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I'll probably be posting this on Thursday, which will be the 10th or the 10th or the 11th. Let me see here. Yeah, it's not midnight yet, so it is the 10th. So it is still the 10th. I just looked, and it's only like 15 minutes till midnight. So by the time you see this, it will probably be July 11th, July 11th, 2019. By the time you're actually hearing this podcast. So if you are in any of my forums, that you can leave some commentary, or have a conversation, or even give me a little more background on the whole subject of cultural appropriation. Do you think there's something to it? I personally don't think that the pictures are cultural appropriation. She's not making fun of the Asian culture. She's not appropriating it. If the pictures are exotic, I think it's because we tend to think of, Chinese, we tend to think of Chinese women as being a little bit exotic as far as their form of beauty and their form of dress anyway. But it's not, they can still yet wear it in their, it's not like black people where if they wear it, into the office, it's considered to be unprofessional or whatever, so they don't have the same issues we have with that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I just wanted to do my little weigh in on the subject, and talk about it, and also do the rest of the series. If you are hearing this on my WordPress blog, you can click onto the You can click onto the other two blog posts that I have about how respectability politics kills black women, and listen to my thoughts on the other two blog posts. So I will see you. Love you guys. Have a good one.